What if I told you that the quiet, relentless sense of weariness you've been feeling isn't just a side effect of a hectic schedule, but a sign of something deeper? Picture yourself standing at the heart of a bustling crossroads, buffeted by waves of expectation, responsibility, and self-doubt from every direction. You look left, then right, searching for relief, yet a shadow follows you everywhere, a shadow that dims your enthusiasm, frays your nerves, and robs even the smallest joys of their color. This shadow is emotional exhaustion, and it may have slipped into your life so quietly that you hardly noticed its arrival. Now, if you are new here, please like the video and subscribe. Statistics show that only 15% of my audience is subscribed to the channel, so if this content has helped you in any way, I ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We live in an era of swirling demands. The hum of technology permeates every corner of our waking hours. Social pressures extend far beyond old boundaries, and economic strains can be constant companions. It's easy to treat fatigue as a badge of honor or to shrug it off as the norm. But the stakes are immense. Prolonged emotional exhaustion corrodes your capacity to feel genuine contentment. It sabotages relationships, stifles creative sparks, and leaves you drifting through each day as though you're carrying a hidden weight on your back. Left unchecked, it can lead to deeper mental and physical health crises, driving you into an ever-narrowing tunnel of despair. Yet, there is a different path. By identifying the early warning signs of this pervasive malaise and applying Stoic wisdom, tested by centuries of philosophical reflection, you can reclaim a measure of inner calm and vitality. The Stoic approach guides us to focus on what truly lies within our control, our judgments, choices, and intentional reactions, while releasing the futile attempts to micromanage external events that only foster weariness. It also shows us how to cultivate a mindset of resilience and clarity in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Why trust my words on this matter? In my many years of walking this earth, I have witnessed the slow creep of emotional exhaustion in countless individuals, myself included. I've spent decades studying Stoic texts, tracing them from the early Greek roots in Zeno's school through Roman exemplars like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and applying their lessons to modern dilemmas. I have watched these teachings revive spirits beaten down by chronic stress, and I speak now in the hope that my experiences, combined with the practicality of ancient philosophy, can illuminate a way out of the labyrinth for you as well. Here is our roadmap. First, we will define the 5 most telling signs of emotional exhaustion, those telltale indicators that you might be running on empty. In exploring each sign, we will link it to Stoic insights that reveal the deeper causes. Then, we will outline why these symptoms take root in the context of modern life, connecting them with timeless Stoic concepts about control, desire, and virtue. Finally, we will delve into what you can do, concrete steps, reflective practices, and mindful strategies to gradually lift the burden of exhaustion. By the end, you will have not only a clearer sense of your own emotional landscape, but also a set of time-tested tools to nourish your spirit and reorient your life toward resilience and hope. Let us embark on this journey together, guided by the principle that self-knowledge is the first step in any true transformation. From the vantage point of an older Stoic soul, I will do my utmost to present these insights in a manner that resonates and engages, so you can integrate them into your world right away. Even a single shift in perspective can make a world of difference when it comes to releasing yourself from the jaws of emotional exhaustion. So let us venture forth, shedding light on the shadows that might have dogged our steps for far too long. The hidden depths of emotional exhaustion. Before naming the 5 signs, let us reflect on what emotional exhaustion truly means. Unlike simple physical fatigue, which can be remedied by a good night's sleep, emotional exhaustion is a pervasive weariness that clings to the mind and heart. It's when every task, no matter how small, feels monumental. When even your capacity for joy is muted, as though a dull film covers every experience. Stoic thinkers understood that while the world's demands can be overwhelming, much of our anguish arises from our internal responses, from illusions about what we can control, misaligned priorities, or the inability to set meaningful boundaries. Recognizing emotional exhaustion is thus the first step toward correcting these imbalances. In my earlier years, I encountered a scholar who, by all outward measures, had a life of prestige and accomplishment. Yet, he confided in me one night, over a quiet cup of tea, that he felt utterly hollow inside. It wasn't that he disliked his pursuits. Rather, he was stuck in a cycle of perpetual strain, anxious over a future he couldn't fully shape and regretful about the past he couldn't rewrite. That scholar helped me see the insidious nature of emotional exhaustion. It can hide behind accomplishments and outward success, silently eroding the sense of fulfillment and leading one to drift through life like a shadow, rather than a vibrant, engaged participant. From a Stoic perspective, emotional exhaustion thrives when we lose sight of where our true power lies, over our own mind, values, and moral purpose, and instead invest too much energy in outcomes that hinge on others' decisions or unpredictable circumstances. This imbalance sets the stage for the 5 signs we will soon explore, each of which underscores how exhaustion stifles our ability to live freely and robustly. The 5 signs of emotional exhaustion and their Stoic underpinnings. 1. Unyielding fatigue despite rest. Ever slept a full night or taken a weekend off yet still awakened feeling as though you've been trudging uphill? You've tasted the first sign of emotional exhaustion. This form of fatigue is not remedied by mere physical rest because its roots lie deeper. You might work fewer hours, cancel social events, or plan a relaxing evening at home, only to find your spirit remains heavy. From the Stoic viewpoint, sleep is a bodily necessity, but genuine replenishment also depends on the state of our mental and emotional life. When the mind is flooded with concerns that resist resolution, like unresolved guilt, self-critical thoughts, or a sense of looming catastrophe, it fails to relax even when the body is horizontal. Epictetus warned of the danger in cluttering the mind with too many cares that lie beyond our influence. Every night, these unexamined anxieties swirl, preventing true rest. Consider a friend of mine who spent months juggling projects he'd reluctantly agreed to, out of a misguided sense of obligation. Even when he wasn't physically doing these tasks, his mind remained on high alert. I recommended a simple Stoic practice. Each evening, he would write down the tasks that genuinely fell under his control and those that did not. By the act of noticing where his authority ended, he was able to let go of fruitless worry. Slowly, he found that his rest gained depth, and the fortress of fatigue began to crack. If you recognize yourself in this scenario, introspection can become your ally. Are you overestimating your power to fix everything around you? Are you attaching your worth to outcomes you can't fully dictate? Learning to center on your own sphere of control can help you drift into a deeper, more peaceful form of sleep. the kind that begins to mend emotional strain over time. 2. Diminished emotional range, from numbness to sudden outbursts. Another telling sign is the blunting or distortion of emotional expression. Perhaps you glide through day-to-day life with a sense of detachment, unable to feel genuine excitement or sorrow. Or you find yourself shifting abruptly from calm to anger or sadness without a clear trigger, as though the emotional tide swells and recedes in a chaotic pattern. Stoic teachings on emotional regulation can shed light on this phenomenon. The goal of Stoicism was never to eradicate emotions, but to attain mastery over their influences. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius both recognized that emotions, unbalanced by reason, can tilt us into extremes, either withdrawing entirely from heartfelt engagement or drowning us in reactive outbursts. Emotional exhaustion arises when we repeatedly push ourselves beyond our limits, ignoring the mind's pleas for genuine reflection and release. Eventually, the psyche may shut down to protect itself from incessant stress, leading to numbness. I recall witnessing a colleague who displayed impeccable composure at work, nodding politely and handling tasks efficiently, only to explode in uncharacteristic fury at a minor inconvenience. It was as though a hidden reservoir of tension had erupted. The Stoics teach that we must attend to the slow accumulation of stressors before they burst. Through consistent self-examination, such as journaling or brief daily check-ins with our emotional state, we can identify simmering tensions. We can name the feelings, explore their causes, and keep them from crystallizing into numbness or culminating in a violent release. Such a practice might feel unnatural at first, especially if you've grown used to ignoring your emotional landscape. But with time, you may rediscover a healthier range of feeling, including the capacity for joy, empathy, and contentment, none of which flourish in an emotionally depleted spirit. 3. Withdrawal from meaningful connections and activities. Emotional exhaustion also manifests as a retreat from what once brought you solace or excitement. Perhaps you no longer call close friends, or you skip hobbies and gatherings that you once eagerly anticipated. You might even turn down an opportunity that aligns with your long-held interests, lacking the energy to engage with it. This distancing can be partly explained by the Stoic concept of misguided avoidance. We habitually distance ourselves from pain or struggle, yet we may inadvertently cut off the relationships and experiences that foster growth and renewal. Marcus Aurelius wrote that humankind is meant for community. We are interconnected by our rational and social nature. When emotional exhaustion sets in, we may isolate ourselves to conserve our last scraps of energy. But in doing so, we forfeit the nourishment that genuine companionship provides. Over time, isolation can deepen into loneliness or resignation. I once counseled an acquaintance who found himself skipping the weekly gatherings of a book club he had cherished. His reason: I don't have the bandwidth for small talk. Yet, in avoiding the club, he also lost the intellectual stimulation and camaraderie that refilled his emotional reservoir. The Stoics might advise him to differentiate between truly draining activities and those that invigorate his spirit. Often, we reflexively hide from everything when we're exhausted, but thoughtful discernment can reveal that certain connections or pursuits actually mitigate fatigue, rather than exacerbate it. Rebuilding these ties requires a careful, gentle approach. The remedy isn't to hurl oneself back into ceaseless socializing. Rather, begin with one sincere conversation or re-engage with one pastime you used to love. Over time, These threads can be woven back into a support network that shields you from the harsh edges of emotional strain. 4. Persistent negativity, cynicism, or hopelessness. The fourth sign is a creeping negativity or cynicism that colors your thoughts and interactions. You might catch yourself dismissing new opportunities with a resigned sigh. That will never work. Or perhaps you respond to others' enthusiasm with scorn, convinced that optimism is naive and disappointment inevitable. From a Stoic vantage point, negativity frequently arises when we are fixated on the external world's failures to meet our expectations. We expect fairness, but see injustice, expect loyalty, but encounter betrayal, expect progress, but witness setbacks. In moderate doses, realism is healthy. But emotional exhaustion can twist realism into a hardened cynicism that saps hope. Epictetus counseled that, while the world is often chaotic, our power to choose virtue remains intact. To let negativity fester is to relinquish that choice, letting external unpredictability define our inner climate. I recall a craftsman who, after a string of financial troubles, insisted there was no point in refining his art anymore, convinced that the market was unfair and customers were unappreciative. Watching him slip into bitterness pained me. His skill remained remarkable, but his mindset dimmed his creativity, pushing away potential clients who sensed his hostility. Over time, he realized that cynicism had become a self-fulfilling cycle. The Stoics might have encouraged him to focus on his craftsmanship, what he could control, rather than letting external disappointments overshadow his core passion and talent. Confronting this negativity demands deliberate effort. Journaling or meditating on what is genuinely within your power to improve, seeking out small victories that you can fully own, and tempering your judgments about what the future holds. Even the act of acknowledging that cynicism has taken root is a vital first step to regaining a more balanced perspective on life's possibilities. 5. Chronic confusion and difficulty making decisions. The last sign we shall examine is a persistent sense of mental fog. If you've ever stood in a grocery aisle staring blankly at shelves, unable to decide which item to buy, or if you've noticed that a once engaging project feels impossible to map out, you may be experiencing this confusion. Exhaustion dulls mental acuity, making the simplest decisions seem insurmountable. The Stoic approach emphasizes clarity of thought through disciplined reflection. When our minds brim with half-formed worries and tasks, we lose the capacity to prioritize. Marcus Aurelius regularly wrote in his meditations about focusing on what must be done here and now, reminding himself to address each duty methodically rather than letting them pile into an unmanageable heap. Emotional exhaustion often results from a swirl of neglected tasks, conflicting priorities, and unresolved concerns. The mind gets locked in a perpetual state of fragmentation, leaving little mental bandwidth for timely decisions. I have personally experienced times when even selecting a new book to read felt like a chore, simply because my mind was saturated with extraneous concerns, financial deadlines, interpersonal disagreements, vague guilt about neglected goals. Only by systematically clarifying each area of life, acknowledging which parts I genuinely needed to act on and which I had to set aside, did I regain the mental clarity to decide with confidence. Such clarity doesn't appear overnight, but the steady pursuit of it lies at the heart of Stoic discipline. When you see your decision-making faltering, consider stepping back. In a journal or personal reflection, list out the demands you face, Then identify which truly require immediate attention. As you methodically address these tasks, or consciously defer them, you'll find your mind gradually regains the space to think. This practice effectively declutters the mental workspace, diminishing the fog of exhaustion. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day," so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Why these signs emerge, a deeper Stoic perspective. Now that we have delineated the 5 key indicators of emotional exhaustion, let us delve more deeply into why they arise. From the Stoic point of view, 3 overarching elements often pave the way for burnout. 1. Misplaced focus on the uncontrollable. By concentrating on external validation, unpredictable events, or other people's choices, we squander mental energy on factors beyond our sphere of influence. The resulting frustration gnaws at our reserves, fueling a sense of powerlessness. 2. Neglect of inner alignment. When we fail to live in harmony with our values, pursuing obligations or desires that conflict with what we find meaningful, our conscience suffers a slow bleed. We might keep going out of inertia, but inside, conflict festers, accelerating exhaustion. 3. Insufficient emotional hygiene. The Stoics taught the importance of frequent self-scrutiny, aiming to clean house in our minds. Without these habits, such as journaling, reflection, or mindful pauses, stress accumulates like dust in a neglected room, eventually eclipsing our emotional well-being. Practical steps for renewal. Stoic tools to combat emotional exhaustion. Now we turn to the what to do aspect of our journey. Recognizing the 5 signs and understanding their roots prepares us to adopt specific, time-tested Stoic strategies, ranging from daily routines to deeper philosophical shifts that can gradually help restore emotional equilibrium. Think of these as a compass directing you out of the wilderness, one measured step at a time. Daily reflection and journaling. An indispensable Stoic technique, daily reflection or journaling offers a structured way to scrutinize your mental and emotional states. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote his meditations not for public consumption, but as a personal exercise to align his thoughts with philosophical truths. Every morning, take a few moments to anticipate potential challenges of the day, tasks that might overwhelm you, interactions likely to trigger worry, or situations where you fear a loss of control. Then, reaffirm your intention to govern what you can, your perspective and conduct, while letting go of what you cannot. In the evening, review how the day unfolded. Did you succumb to fatigue or frustration in a particular situation? Were there times you successfully maintained your composure? Record these insights without self-condemnation, but with the calm curiosity of someone refining a craft. Over time, this practice reveals patterns behind your emotional weariness, and that awareness alone is a stepping stone toward change. You will notice, for instance, how negative self-talk arises under certain conditions, or how you consistently push yourself too hard in particular areas of life. With each reflection, you chip away at the unconscious habits that feed exhaustion. Strategic boundary setting. Emotional exhaustion often signals we're overextended, scattering our energy across too many arenas. The Stoics remind us that while we should contribute to society, we must not drown in responsibilities that exceed our capacity. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of a vast empire, famously penned lines about focusing on the task immediately at hand, one at a time, as though each were the only matter that required his attention. Consider your current obligations. Do they truly align with your values, or have you taken on tasks out of guilt, social pressure, or a vague fear of disappointing others? If you find that certain roles or commitments are draining you inordinately, it may be time to renegotiate or gracefully withdraw from them. This boundary setting might be as simple as reducing extracurricular responsibilities, delegating certain tasks at work, or politely declining invitations that you know will leave you more depleted than uplifted. Establishing boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but one of self-preservation and wisdom. Through careful boundary setting, you ensure the commitments you do undertake receive your full, unfragmented presence. In so doing, you defend against the creeping fatigue that arises from trying to be everywhere at once. Gradual re-engagement with meaningful activities. If emotional exhaustion has led you to withdraw from once nurturing relationships or interests, the Stoics would not advise you to force yourself back into constant socializing overnight. Instead, proceed with measured steps that rekindle connection in a life-giving manner. Reflect on what truly brings you a sense of purpose or delight. A creative project, a quiet walk in nature, or a conversation with a long-standing confidant. Then, schedule small, intentional engagements with these outlets. The essence of Stoicism lies in deliberate choice, doing things that align with virtue and meaning, rather than letting circumstances rule our actions. Perhaps you begin by reading a few pages of a favorite philosophy text each morning, or by inviting a friend for a brief walk at the park. Observe how your spirit responds. If you feel a flicker of renewed energy, nurture that spark steadily. Over time, these connections can act as scaffolding, rebuilding a sense of emotional vitality one encounter at a time. Developing emotional literacy. Through Stoic observation, Stoicism is sometimes misconstrued as the suppression of feeling, but in truth, it advocates developing emotional literacy, knowing what you feel, why you feel it, and whether it serves your well-being. Rather than ignoring or judging your emotions, learn to name them. Fear, anger, shame, sadness, relief, hope. Observe their presence calmly, almost like a scientist taking note of a phenomenon in nature. If you detect persistent negative emotions, such as cynicism or resentment, trace them to their underlying beliefs. I resent my friend because I think she has more free time than I do. Or, I'm cynical at work because I assume everyone is out for themselves. Once named, these beliefs can be tested with reason. Are they entirely accurate? Could they be partial truths overshadowed by your exhaustion? By gently questioning these assumptions, you reclaim your power to choose a balanced viewpoint. In challenging times, practice a brief Stoic pause. Step away from the trigger, breathe, and ask yourself, is this reaction guided by virtue, or is it fueled by the exhaustion I carry? If the latter, you can redirect your response, perhaps offering empathy or seeking clarification instead of snapping in frustration. This deliberate approach not only curbs emotional outbursts, but also alleviates the sense of helplessness that underlies chronic fatigue. The art of letting go, embracing the dichotomy of control. Central to Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, the understanding that certain things, our choices, intentions, and moral purpose, lie within our domain, whereas much else lies beyond it. Emotional exhaustion frequently arises when we conflate the two, believing we can, or should, manage every external outcome and impression. This leads to an endless chase and a mounting sense of failure when reality diverges from our wishes. Revisit your pressing concerns: job security, relationship stability, social standing, personal ambitions, health uncertainties. Which aspects of these are genuinely in your control? Where does your influence end? By drawing a clear boundary, you liberate yourself from the futility of wrestling with the uncontrollable. You do your utmost where you can, preparing diligently for a job interview, communicating honestly in a relationship, while recognizing that the final result may still elude your orchestration. This mental shift spares you from wasted anxiety, enabling you to allocate your limited emotional energy more judiciously. Restoring perspective, negative visualization, and gratitude. The Stoics pioneered the technique of negative visualization, urging us to contemplate adversity and loss to cultivate gratitude and mental resilience. In the context of emotional exhaustion, negative visualization can counter the creeping sense of despair or cynicism. For instance, imagine losing a basic comfort, like your mobility, your sense of sight, or your current relationships. Briefly reflecting on life without these blessings can awaken renewed appreciation for what you do possess. On the opposite side of the same coin lies the practice of gratitude. Each evening, identify small instances of relief or positivity, however modest they seem. A calm moment with your morning coffee, a supportive conversation, or a flash of insight during a difficult task. This habit trains your mind to notice pockets of light even amid the darkness of exhaustion, shifting your emotional baseline toward hope rather than resignation. Integrating practices into daily life, making Stoicism your own. All these strategies mean little if they remain theoretical. The Stoics believed in living philosophy, day-to-day application. Here is a suggested structure for embedding these ideas into your routine. Morning mindset. Upon waking, spend 5 minutes contemplating the potential challenges of the day. Remind yourself you control your reactions, not external events. Midday. Checkpoint. At lunchtime, or another natural pause, reflect on whether fatigue or negativity has crept in. If so, deploy a quick journaling note or a deliberate Stoic pause to realign your perspective. Evening reflection. Engage in a longer journaling session, reviewing where you succeeded or faltered in upholding your Stoic intentions. If exhaustion lingers, note the triggers that fed it and consider how to address them. Weekly renewal. Dedicate an hour each weekend to reevaluate ongoing commitments, adjusting boundaries where needed, and planning time for meaningful rejuvenation. Such disciplined repetition, carried out consistently over weeks and months, gradually reshapes your internal responses. You will find you have more emotional bandwidth than before, enabling you to face life's ups and downs with steadiness rather than continual depletion. Overcoming obstacles and next steps. The path to recovery from emotional exhaustion does not always unfold smoothly. At times, you might encounter setbacks, a demanding week at work, a personal crisis, or an unexpected health issue. In these moments, recall that Stoicism thrives in adversity. The virtues you cultivate, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, gain meaning precisely when tested. Recognize, too, that severe or long-standing emotional exhaustion might require additional professional support, whether from mental health counselors, medical professionals, or support groups. Stoic principles can complement therapeutic interventions, enhancing their efficacy by fostering self-awareness and disciplined thought patterns. Seeking help is not a betrayal of Stoic self-reliance, but a logical and compassionate choice in preserving your well-being. If you doubt the possibility of progress, take heart in the fact that the same ancient teachings have guided emperors, slaves, generals, statesmen, and ordinary citizens alike. They endured times of war, plague, political turmoil, and personal losses far beyond what many of us face. In each era, those who embraced Stoic methods found a kind of internal fortitude that allowed them to persist, adapt, and sometimes even flourish amidst hardship. The broader meaning: reclaiming your life's joy and purpose. Though our focus has been on combating emotional exhaustion, the fruits of Stoic practice extend well beyond merely avoiding burnout. As you apply these principles, you'll likely discover a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper connection to what truly matters. The busyness of life often obscures the essential question: what do I stand for, and how can I live so that my actions reflect my values? Emotional exhaustion, for all its pain, can serve as a signal that you have strayed from these fundamental reflections, prompting you to realign with your moral and existential compass. Over time, small acts of alignment, honoring your boundaries, speaking truthfully in difficult conversations, actively cherishing the good in your life, coalesce into a transformed worldview. Your relationships may take on new depth as you engage others with authenticity rather than through a fog of fatigue. Your endeavors, whether professional or personal, can become more rewarding as you pursue them with deliberate choice instead of drifting under external pressures. In the final accounting, you will realize that the path away from exhaustion isn't a grudging retreat from life's challenges, but a redirection of your energies toward mindful, principle-driven living. Closing reflections, a Stoic legacy for the weary soul. Let us take a final moment, then, to consider how far we've come. From naming the 5 signs of emotional exhaustion: unyielding fatigue, emotional volatility or numbness, withdrawal from meaningful engagement, creeping cynicism, and decision paralysis, to unpacking the Stoic rationale behind them. We have also examined practical means to reverse the tide: self-reflection, boundary setting, mindful re-engagement with purpose, and the harnessing of emotional insight through reasoned observation. All of these anchor in the central Stoic mission: to discern what lies within our control and to cultivate virtue in the face of what does not. In the quiet hush of a late evening, or the fresh stillness of early morning, may you find the courage to face your exhaustion without shame or fear. Instead, view it as an invitation to recalibrate the compass of your inner life. By gentle, consistent efforts, each day can become a step away from the dark well of burnout and into a renewed sense of clarity and vitality. Let the experiences of ancient Stoics, from an emperor writing in his wartime tent to a freedman philosopher teaching in the streets, stand as companions on your path, reminding you that the power to preserve and restore your spirit lies within you, if only you recognize and seize it. And so I leave you with one last reminder, gleaned from my years of reflection. Emotional exhaustion often feels final, as though you have reached an ending. But in truth, it can also mark a beginning, a call to apply the bedrock of Stoic discipline to shed illusions, lighten your burdens, and step into a more intentional, unburdened way of being. Heed that call and let it lead you toward a future in which you do not merely endure your days, but greet them with a measure of calm resilience, aligned once more with your true capacity for virtue and fulfillment. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.